Yo, what's good, everybody? It is your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back. Yes, I am back. I know it's been quite a bit and quite a while. I took a bit of a hiatus. The reason for that was because I was in the process of moving. A bunch of stuff came up. Honestly, it was so hard to record and get stuff done. But I'm finally moved in. I'm finally settled. I decided that, okay, I'm going to start back on Monday. It is currently Monday. And we are back with a brand new What If. What if Deku had a night Quirk? And as always, I hope you guys enjoy. Make sure to show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. And I don't want to waste much more of your time at all. I want to get right into the What If. So let's get it. Izuku Midoriya is born in a world full of superpowers, other known as quirks. Now, this world is different. Quirks or superpowers ranging from ones that can level buildings to ones that make you look like a washing machine. Well, children all around Japan would hope and pray for a quirk that can send them into the stratosphere of being like the #1 hero, All Might. Now that right there is the goal of one Izuku Midoriya, but from a young age he's always felt the true side of being noble. It seems like deep down inside he's always been a good person, a stand-up little lad, and on top of that he holds all of what he holds dear to him to his chest. It seems like Izuku holds a lot of insane morality, and on top of that it seems like Izuku wants to always fight for what he believes in. It seems like he's structured and serious, but at the same time understands the protection and the gratefulness of being around family and protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Yes, at a young age, Izuku would be developing these ideas and developing all of these kind of heroic qualities all the way up until his quirk would finally awaken. And when his quirk would finally awaken and he would be told by the doctor what it is, it seems to be a bit abnormal. For starters, it seems like Izuku's skin is a little bit more durable than normal, but it also seems that he has an affinity with utilizing weaponry like swords, but also on top of that, when bonding with a sword or bonding with weaponry, it seems like it gets a massive boost to not only himself, but also the weapon itself. Now, this might include as well the armor he could possibly use in the future, but it would also involve utilizing just regular clothing. Now, he might not get any crazy bonuses from just utilizing regular clothing, but clothing itself does have small perks alongside it. Now, I will say this, Izuku at a young age, well, a lot of people would believe he doesn't have a quirk at all. Nothing too outlandish, nothing too explosive, nothing too crazy. And Bakugo would even test Izuku just a little bit, but he would soon realize that Izuku definitely has a quirk. Because when Bakugo one day at the young age of around 5 or 6, he would actually go to blast Izuku with an explosion. As he does, Izuku will put his arm out in front of him, and as he does this, it seems like this energy would emit from his arm, growing what seems to be a shield. This shield would block the attack from Bakugo and basically stop it in its entirety. Izuku would stand tall, standing and looking directly toward Bakugo, and this aura would emit off of Izuku that would make Bakugo respect him. It seems like his night quirk is a lot more than you could possibly imagine, emitting this kind of aura that would force Bakugo to kind of see him in a different light, being that of respecting him entirely. Now, going on throughout middle school and throughout the younger years of his schooling, Izuku would be decent friends with Bakugo. And yes, Bakugo wouldn't hold the same moral standpoint and probably wouldn't be very similar to Izuku, but they would kind of be decent friends. Izuku would somewhat keep him in check, telling him that he shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that, making Bakugo grow up as a better person, at least to a small degree. Would he have that little flare of arrogance and that anger to him still? Of course. but Izuku would still be able to kind of make light and make friendship of Bakugo to a certain extent, and they are actually a pretty good tandem, a pretty good tag team. And it seems as if they both grow up together as respected friends and maybe even respected brothers to a certain extent. And both of them kind of rub off on each other in a way of Bakugo's arrogance would go down just a little bit, and Izuku's confidence would go up just a little bit as well. Izuku believes that he needs to follow this line, follow this rhythm, follow this path of being a true knight. Honor, nobility, all of this. But now he is exuding confidence that he wouldn't have had if he wasn't friends with someone like Bakugo. Now, when they're around maybe 14, 15, is when they kind of start training together, working out together, and also just learning hand-to-hand combat together. It seems as if Izuku is extremely susceptible to actually learning hand-to-hand combat. He's extremely good at protecting people and extremely good at just flat out going one-on-one with anybody you could possibly imagine. Now, when he would learn martial arts and learn the way of the sword and so on, he would be picking things up in a matter of days to weeks to months, right? Things that would take people years to learn, he would learn it all in just 1 year. That's the type of, quirk Izuku is able to gain. But there's so much more to his quirk than he could possibly even imagine. Something that he wouldn't even think about for a very long time. But for now, Izuku's mother, or Inko Midoriya, is able to get him, some basic armor, some basic things like padding, and that would allow him to protect himself, increasing his durability quite a bit. But on top of that, would also be able to get him a sword that seems to be his first true sword, and when he would grab it, it would bound to him as if it's connected to his soul itself. It seems like the sword is now connected to him and now will grow alongside Izuku Midoriya. When Izuku would put it down and go away, the sword seemingly would be like a magnet, attracting back to him. It seems as if Izuku cannot live without this sword and can always track where it is. This sword is bound to him, and eventually he would realize in a training session with Bakugo that when he puts down the sword, when Bakugo tries to pick it up, it no longer is able to be picked up by anyone. It seems like the boundness to the sword is based on the worthiness of the knight, and it seems as if Izuku holds the worthiness and no one else is worthy of it other than himself. And as time goes on, Izuku would continue on with his middle school studies and stuff like that, and eventually the teacher would tell them all, hey, we want to do a career aptitude test and blah blah blah. But then he would say that he knows everyone wants to go to UA High School, and there's two people here, Izuku Midoriya and Katsuki Bakugo, that are actually trying out for UA, in which the class would be kind of confused. It seems like Bakugo would be perfect fit for UA, but what about Izuku? I mean, seriously, he doesn't really have that much to him, and from what they've heard, he relies so heavily on his weaponry. I mean, he literally has a sword holstered on his back right now that school had to basically get registered for him so that he can always carry it. And it's not like Izuku can basically blow up buildings or, shoot explosions and do this and do that. So they're very questionable about what Izuku can do, but Bakugo would tell them all to shut their mouths, that all of them are useless compared to Izuku, but Izuku would tell Bakugo that it's just fine, that being doubted is part of the journey, and that he needs to understand that, and every last person here needs to understand that as well. At the end of the day, you are going to be doubted, you are going to be challenged, and you are going to be tempted throughout this entire life. And you need to be ready for every last bit of it, because if you're not, then you might just fall straight on your ass. And that's exactly what Izuku believes. And of course, everybody would kind of shut their mouths, especially because both Izuku and Bakugo have shown over and over again that if you step up to them, they could definitely put you down. And that's just the facts of it. Even if they sit here and doubt Izuku on what his capabilities are, they still don't stand a chance against Izuku himself, and that's just the facts of it. Now, this would lead to them leaving school and, things getting shut down early, but Izuku would head off and continue writing in his journals about different techniques that he feels like he could work on, and a training regimen he wants to set up for himself in the coming days. And as he comes through this tunnel of some sort, Izuku would hear the crackling and the splashing of something underneath a manhole cover. And as something would jump out, it would be a sludge-like villain. Izuku would be shocked to see this and would be thinking, how the hell is he supposed to defeat this thing? He pulls out his sword, but then would see very quickly that there is no way that he's going to be able to, kill this thing with a measly sword. So he puts the sword straight into the ground, and the sludge villain laughs, saying that it seems like the kid's not going to resist and just, let him take his body. As the sludge villain would charge at him, Izuku would put his arm out as a seemingly what seems to be an energy-like shield would appear in front, as the sludge villain would smack right into it, unable to get to Izuku. Izuku says that the perk of being, like him, is that he has very good hearing. And the sludge villain's confused at what he means by this, and Izuku says that it seems like someone has been chasing him, and whoever's coming to, get him must be stronger than him, because he is running like a scaredy little girl. In which the sludge villain would try to smash his way through this shield that was created, but Izuku tells him that there's no way to get through it, and the more he smashes into the energy shield, the slower and weaker he's going to get. In which the sludge villain is completely gasping for air at this point, breathing hard in and out, as he hears the manhole cover pop up once again and sees the person he's been fearing. And Izuku, he would smile extremely wide, as this person is All Might himself. All Might would Detroit smash the sludge villain into the energy shield, basically shattering the sludge villain into pieces, as the shield would then slowly but surely dissipate. Izuku would put his sword away, and he would bow toward All Might, saying that it's a pleasure to meet him and a pleasure to be in the presence of the #1 hero. In which All Might would ask if he would please consider, helping clean up here, in which Izuku helps out, and then All Might asks him what kind of quirk is he able to utilize, and what kind of quirk does he have, in which Izuku would explain his quirk, deeming it known as the Night Quirk, but also explaining what it can do, some of the capabilities, and what capabilities he has personally for himself. Which All Might would be extremely impressed by this. I mean, extremely impressed, asking, if he's ever considered going to somewhere like UA High School, in which Izuku says that he's going to be going to the UA entrance exam in about 10 months, so he's extremely excited, and he's going to be working hard and basically has a whole training regimen to get him ready for that test and ready for the entrance exam. In which All Might is happy to hear this. At the end of the day, All Might thinks that this kid has massive potential, but he tells him that he's got to get this sludge villain over to the police, but he will hopefully be speaking to him very, very soon. In which Izuku nods his head, and All Might would jump off and leave, as Izuku would head back home and would be excited to see what's to come. But what's to come truly for him right now is a lot of training. And that includes training with someone like All Might, or with someone like Bakugo, excuse me. He trains with Bakugo quite a bit throughout these 10 months. They would study together, train together, and so on, getting better and better and better, sharpening the skills of both of them. And Izuku, as he continues to get better armor and better kind of strength of weaponry, it seems like his sword continues to evolve with him. So much so that his sword seemingly is learning from the encounters that they have. The sludge villain encounter. Seemingly his sword can now cut through sludge and kind of solidify the sludge itself, seemingly leading to his sword learning even more. And this is what I meant by his sword is developing and learning alongside him. And it seems like his sword is going to be even more powerful as they go on. Now, the training regimen between him and Bakugo, it's nothing crazy, but it's also nothing to laugh at. It's very difficult training in terms of working hard and working out and getting sharp enough for the UA entrance exam. But Izuku, well, he wouldn't get that many other powers and other things like that. And he is awaiting getting new armor and a new suit and stuff like that, because in his eyes, if UA High School can give him better armor, a better suit, maybe a cape, maybe look like that vintage All Might that he wants to look like, but on top of that, give him the armor of a knight, maybe with the colors of All Might, maybe the kind of the facial cover looking similar to the facial hair of All Might in a way, something similar or something reminiscent of that. Maybe it could give him the strength that he seeks after. Maybe it will give him the bonuses that he seeks after. That's what Izuku wants, so he's going to have to wait for that when he gets into UA High School. But it all starts with the UA entrance exam, which him and Bakugo would eventually show up to. Him and Bakugo would sit through a speech from President Mike and sit through this and that and then do the written portion of the exam. After the written portion of the exam, it would be the practical, in which they would be separated and be told that they're going to be taking on robots. 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, but also there is a 0 point robot that they should just avoid, in which Izuku is excited to see what's to come, in which Izuku lines up ready to go, and let's just say when at the gates ready to move, he gets interrupted by somebody by the name of Tenya Ida, in which he tells him that he's not supposed to have weaponry and this and that, and Izuku tells him to mind his business because this weaponry has been certified and is bound to him through the Knight's Code, and that he needs to stop disrespecting the blade that he holds and the blade that he wears like clothing and like an arm itself. And of course, this would shock and kind of spook Tenya Ida just a little bit. This guy takes his whole persona a little too seriously. That's what Tenya's thinking. But Izuku doesn't see this as any persona. This is him. He is the knight. And of course, he tells him once again that he needs to mind his business as he basically gets his sword ready in a position for him to run. As the gates would sling open, he would take off in a blaze of glory. He would slice through many robots, and as he slices through them, he would even throw his sword, slicing and puncturing through multiple at the same time, a robot shish kebab, if you could even say, and he would slice through them repeatedly, and everybody would be in shock to see this guy running through, clean slicing seemingly through all of these robots. But it seems as if his blade is leaving a different kind of puncture every time. Now, for the robot specifically, it seems like his blade is heated, as if it's some sort of explosive heat that is on the blade. It seems like when he makes contact with the robot, it slightly explodes and it allows him to cut clean through the robots, in which this is a gift from Bakugo. Bakugo, for training with Bakugo and being hit by his explosions, has had the effect of an explosive-like sword on the sword itself, right? The sword now has a melting/fiery-like effect depending on the circumstance, allowing him to cut straight through the robots with massive ease. But also, he does cut through the robots as well. As he does, it would liquefy the parts of the robot as if it's kind of making it into sludge, destroying the robot from the inside out, crumbling it to pieces. It seems like Izuku's every encounter has benefited him massively, no matter the circumstance. And as he cuts through robot after robot, he dismantles them all, or at least a large portion, and everybody is in shock to see what he's capable of, and the teachers who are watching are just as shocked as the students. But soon the 0-point robot would appear and Izuku would stand right in front of that 0-point robot, and as he hears the screams of a girl, without even a second thought, Izuku would stand tall in front of the robot. He would stand there and place his sword in the ground, and everybody would be completely confused. Doesn't he need that sword to protect the girl? Like, what is he doing? The sword is what makes him strong. The sword is the reason why he's able to do the things he can do. But soon they would realize how wrong that is, because Izuku's sword would begin to emit power, and so would Izuku himself, creating an aura of a giant shield, what seems to be. And as this giant shield would appear, the robot would walk into it, but would then ricochet right back off of it, slamming itself right on the back on its backside. Seemingly, what happened was that, well, the robot would punch or kind of have this momentum land on the shield, and then the shield itself would use the momentum and shoot back a wave of energy right directly back at the robot, slamming it down to the ground, and the robot would be out of commission entirely. Izuku would pull the sword out of the concrete that he shoved it into, placing it back and sheathing it back on toward his back, and then he would go toward the girl that was, completely under rubble, helping clear the rubble and lifting her up and carrying her to safety. It also seems that when protecting somebody, he also gets a massive bonus in his strength. It seems like Izuku's abilities really derive not from one-on-one combat necessarily, but from protecting others that cannot protect themselves at that time. Izuku would help her out, get her to safety, but before she could even say another word, Izuku's already gone. Just like that. Like, literally in a second, Izuku is disappeared and has already, gone off on his own to basically see what he should be doing next. He meets up with Bakugo. They speak about what they did and what was happening and so on and so forth. And they argue just a little bit at who's going to be number one. But nonetheless, they would head home, and as weeks would go by and the letters would come in, it seems like the number one and the number two were solidified. But it seems as if Izuku Midoriya got the leg up on his friend Katsuki Bakugo, because of one portion of the exam nobody knew about, being that of the hero or the rescue portion of the exam, giving him the leg up on Bakugo just enough to peak him by 5 points. Honestly, Bakugo was extremely fast at destroying robots, and he actually had more robot points than even Izuku himself. But Izuku's rescue or hero points is what put him over the edge and allowed him to be the number one in the class. And this would excite both Izuku and Bakugo, but annoy Bakugo because he wanted to be number one. But still, this would lead them both to Class 1A, and as they would head over, when the first day of UA would start, they would enter the classroom to see people that were all different, right? Some pink, some giant, some weird looking, some scary, some anything, right? Everybody was a little bit different, right? And they would both sit down and await the arrival of the teacher. And as everyone laughs and does this and does that, Izuku would be just staring underneath what seems to be the podium of what we will eventually know as Shotaizawa. But Izuku would ask why he's laying there, and of course Bakugo would be confused and ask what the hell is he talking about, in which Izuku would point out that Aizawa has been laying there that entire time, and he tells them all to shut up and to get ready because they're going to all be tested to see what they're truly capable of. In which Aizawa would take them all outside and they would begin what's known as a Quirk assessment test. This Quirk assessment test is a pretty basic one, and it only shows minor things. Your raw strength, your raw speed, how fast you could do this or that, or how strong are you with this or that. Nothing crazy. So yes, the number one student would go first, but Izuku would throw the ball and it really wouldn't go that far. Maybe 150, 200 meters, nothing crazy, right? At least in the eyes of what Bakugo would eventually do, which is quite a bit more. And everybody would be completely shocked by this, seeing that the number 2 student seems to be more powerful than the number 1 student. But Aizawa would remark that it seems like they're as dull as the last group because it seems that they all forget that raw power is not the only thing that matters, but is the only thing that they're testing for at the moment, at least to a certain extent. They would do the speed test, the side steps, the grip test, and all of the above, and eventually they would get their scores back. And Izuku would score pretty damn well, right? He would be at least in the top 10, probably the top 7, and he would score really well because he's fit, he's fast, he's pretty strong, all the above. But at the end of the day, he's not overwhelmingly good in everything. And what he's really good at is with a sword, is really good at with fighting and protecting and stuff like that. That's where his strength lies. But right now, he's unable to show it. And, well, it seems as if Aizawa would threaten that whoever got the lowest score, they would be kicked out and basically exonerated from UA, completely expelled and gone in an instant. But of course, this was a little bit of a ruse, because the next day when they're going on to their next training session, the other person that got kicked out, being that of Hagakure, would be literally back the next day, and it was just a temporary expulsion. Now, this would lead us to the first Heroes versus Villains training, and this Heroes versus Villains training would include somebody that many would not expect, being that of All Might. All Might would be here as a teacher, ready to teach, saying his signature "I am here," and he would tell them all to get on their hero outfits or hero suits and get ready for some training. Now Izuku, he would get on his hero suit and outfit, his cape flowing and his mask put on, and he would don the suit that looked very similar to All Might, but very knightified, you could even say. It looks very similar to a knight's clothing or knight's armor, but at the same time looks very modernized, but also added a little bit of features from the one and only All Might, right? Now this right here would give him massive bonuses to his durability, even to his strength, and also a connection between this armor and the sword would massively allow him to basically control whatever fight he's in. Now, this is something that Bakugo would not be thinking of, especially because it's going to be Izuku and Ochako versus Bakugo and Tenya Ida. And Bakugo would still want this 1 versus 1 on, well, Izuku Midoriya, wanting to show that he is truly better than him, at least one-on-one, and he's going to show him right off the bat. So when Izuku and Ochako would run out, 5 minutes were over, and they would go in with the goal of touching the bomb. They would go in, and Izuku would tell Ochako to go find the bomb because he has a fight with Bakugo ready to go, in which she would be confused, but soon they would see, well, the one and only Bakugo blasting down the staircase, and a fight between Izuku Midoriya and Katsuki Bakugo is about to unfold. But this fight would not be a fair one in the side or toward the side of Izuku Midoriya, because Izuku would have this armor that would allow him to walk through the explosions that Bakugo hits him with. The durability and the understanding and the evolution of his quirk through protection and through his own one-on-one protection, and also his morality and his moral code. It seems as if he now is resistant to Bakugo's explosions, and he would then strike Bakugo with the kind of like a dull side of his sword, hitting him toward the wall and slamming Bakugo once again back into the ground. He would then tie Bakugo up and tell him that he's a formidable foe, but at the end of the day, they know each other way too well. So when this, and he points at his armor, when this appears and things change, well, let's just say you're at a massive disadvantage. In which Izuku would go to walk away, and Bakugo would tell him that that wasn't honorable at all. In which Izuku would look at him and tell him that that's the most honor that he could give him. Not holding back, not evening the playing field, giving him his utter and true respect and his utter true all is the best honor he could give his brother, Bakugo, in which he would nod toward Bakugo as he runs up the staircase, in which Bakugo would just sigh, looking at the ceiling and shake his head. That guy is freaking annoying. In which Izuku would run up there, seeing obviously Ochako struggling a little bit to touch the bomb, but with the help of Izuku and the kind of the speed and the distance closing that he can do, and really just the threat of Tenya getting hurt, which would be, you know, Izuku is very threatening. So with that threat, they would be able to kind of capture the bomb, and then the training session would be completely over. In which All Might, would be extremely impressed by this. At the end of the day, this was one hell of an accomplishment, and they did a hell of a job overall. But there's so much more to be done in this world and in their experience through UA High School. And that right there would include the USJ. The USJ would be their first taste at rescue training, but the rescue training would flip on its head and flip to something completely different, because when villains invade, Izuku's might, his strength, and his honor would be tested for the first time ever. His true resolve would be unveiled, and his true resolve will be tested. But that is for the next part of What If Deku Had a Night Quirk. And if you enjoyed, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. All of that good stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry for the massive hiatus. My goal is to be back full swing, hopefully every single day. Maybe I'll take a day off here and there, but goal is every single day, new part, new upload, new video. So I hope you guys enjoyed nonetheless, and I hope all you have an amazing day. Later.